Self-portrait images with some sort of background that we have made with Adobe Capture. So this picture is of my blanket and some pillows on the couch, and I was just playing around with the app and saw this and thought it reminded me of stained glass, and I just really liked it. And this picture I took here at work. I went into the portrait studio, found a nice plain empty wall, and I'm posing here like Bob Ross, except for I am doing my remote teaching objects instead, and just had my coworker take this picture for me. And then I did a little bit of edits. You can tell I have a little bit of magenta in my highlights. Even in the background, you can see some of that. And I wanted to just give a little bit of warmth to the overall picture. So make sure you do your edits first in Lightroom so that when you import this picture here into PhotoPea, it's exactly as you want it to be. All right, so our first thing that we're going to do here is we are going to select just the body, and so we can layer the pattern in the background. But as you can see, I only have one layer. So first I need to go to my other layer, and I'm going to do my select all and my copy, and I'm going to paste this in. Now, if I'm on the Move tool and I have the Transform Controls box checked, that allows me just to stretch things out. Remember, it's always going to be distorted, and for this pattern, you might like that distortion, but if you don't, you want to hold down the Shift key so that things stay completely proportioned to the original. So I'm going to play with this just a little bit, and I do actually like this with the original where it's completely square. I like the pattern that way better. And I want to shift it back and forth to see where do I want the edges of this pattern to fall. You know, do I want part of it cut off? Where do I want my focal points of certain symbols? So play around with that, stretch it out, get it to the size you want it to be, whether that is something a little larger with your pattern or something smaller. If needed, you could always make this relatively small and then paste in another one if that's what you really need for this. So I'm going to do that just because I like this a little smaller. So I'm going to do that, and then I just want to copy this layer. So I'm going to do a Command J, which will just duplicate the entire layer, and then I can just move this down and line it up, and that is going to work really well for me. So just another option, I thought I would just toss that in for you. Now these are two separate layers. If I need them to be a single layer, which I do, I'm going to hold down my Shift key, click on both of those, and then when I right click, I can simply say Merge Layers. And now all of this is one layer. So another little trick for you. All right, so I'm going to turn off my transform controls just so we can look at this cleanly. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that this layer, my background layer, is going to be on top, and I want just the person showing on top of my pattern. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this layer down below and reorganize those layers. The second thing is I want to select just the body. So I could use tools like the lasso tool, I could do the quick selection, I could even do the magic wand and select just the outside. But as I'm looking at my picture, I notice that my computer is almost the same color and value as my background. So we're going to start with a quick selection and see what happens. If you get that notice, it says image analysis, just give it a second. The computer's just thinking. All right, so I'm going to make my tool a little larger. I'm going to go ahead and select inside my body, and whoa, I got the whole thing. That is because I'm on the wrong layer. So make sure you're on your person layer. All right, analyzing again. So as I go through, I just clicked one time inside, and because my body is it's different from the background, it's darker than the background, it was easy to select just my body. But notice on the edges of the computer, it can't find those edges because it's too similar to the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to make my selection tool a little smaller, and I'm going to go in and just select some of those pieces. And you can see it selected the entire thing, and I didn't want that, so I'm going to undo. So if you get to that point where you can't select just a little piece, it selects too much, again, I just undo, and then I'm going to go here to my lasso tool, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to carefully draw in the stuff that I need. So I need this much more. And I'm going to loop around it, pick it up, there we go. Whoops, sorry, that didn't work, undo that. Hold down the Shift key, or up here where the two circles just means add to it. So I'm going to go over here, select this, pick it up, there we go. On the other edge of the computer, go get this corner, just draw around it, and it adds too. Now if I have something over here like my hair, I don't want that, I can do the take away from, which is the next one over. It's like minus, there's some taken away. So I can go over here, circle around that, and it will unselect that area. So this is the addition, this is the subtraction. This first one is only selected one time. This is add to the selection you already have. So I'm going to go in one more time, and I'm going to clean up the computer and add to that selection just a little bit more. There we go. All right, so now that I have my selection, that is the first thing. What I want to do is I'm going to turn this layer into a mask. Go back to the lesson if you forgot about masking, but I want to mask it so that the background disappears and this layer shows through. So I have my selection. All I need to do is go down here to the mask button and click on it. And congratulations, that has already cleaned it up. Now I do have a little bit of this halo around my head. I could use the eraser tool. We could have done the refine edge first. For this purpose, I'm just going to kind of leave this, and I'm going to go into my eraser tool here and just take away a little bit of that. Oh, no I don't. Sorry. Redo. Remember we just made a mask. That's why I would do this. Make a mask. I go to my paintbrush and I can see that the background in the mask was black. So I have my black brush right here. I'm going to go back into this and make my hardness lower. Remember when we did this with a candle? We're doing that again. All right, so now as I go over here and I zoom in a little bit, I'm going to be using that paintbrush with a fuzzy edge. I'm going to make this tool a little bit larger so it's easier to see. Remember we cleaned up our selections? That is what we're going to do here too. And I need, sorry, a little sharper. There we go. I can go in here now and I can clean up this edge and paint out the parts I don't want very carefully. And if I make a mistake, I can switch that back to the white and put it back in. All right, so I'm not going to do all of that, but you kind of get the idea. That's what you can do with this, is just kind of clean up the edges if you need to do that. If you make a mistake, go ahead and switch your tool back to white, and you can paint it back in. And that is going to be perfect. That is what I would recommend. Now, if for some reason you have little edges around your hair and you're not super happy with that, same thing. I'm going to switch this to black because in my mask over here, my background is black. I can go right along this edge and I can just kind of use my fuzzy edge brush and just clean up some of that if I need to. Now, for the most part, you shouldn't have a ton of this that you need to do, but it's just a really nice way to clean out this mask. Make sure that's really wonderful and that you're just going to flow into the background. Okay, now since I have such a dark background, I realize I wish my hair was a little bit darker. Easy fix. I'm going to go back over here to my image, and I'm going to go Image Adjustments, and I'm going to go here into my levels. And in my levels, I can slightly change the darkness of my body. I could also grab this black and just darken just the blacks a little bit more. And I think that's better. Now the contrast of my body matches the contrast of the background, and then both of them are saturated and intense. I hit OK. I now have these things together. If I want to change my background completely, I can still play with that if I don't like the colors now that I see them together. Maybe I want this red to go a little bit pinker. Remember, just click on that layer and you're going over here to Image Adjustments. I don't want to go down to the cookie because that's going to add another layer and change both of them. I want to change just this one layer, so I go Image Adjustments, and I'm going to go with, let's go Hue Saturation. Maybe I want to change just the reds. And I can slide that and see what that does. And there's red in a lot of that color. What if I want to change just the yellows? Oh, now I can get that nice magenta that I was looking for before. So really play around with this and see what effect you like in the end. Maybe you want it less saturated or more saturated. There's lots of things you can do, or if you feel like one is too light or too dark, please go ahead and play with that as well. And that's where you're going to kind of end up with just this part. Today we'll pick